I remember that day vividly. The Texas sun blazing down as we drove toward the outskirts of town. The old house loomed ahead, a silhouette against the endless blue sky, its windows like black eyes watching us approach. My friends and I had heard the stories, whispers of the past echoing through the dusty air. They spoke of a family that vanished without a trace, leaving behind only shadows and secrets. The thrill of adventure was intoxicating, overshadowing any sense of danger. As we stepped inside, the door creaked ominously, a sound that sent shivers down my spine. Dust motes danced in the shafts of light, and the air was thick with a musty odor that felt almost alive. Each room we explored revealed remnants of a life once lived: tattered furniture, peeling wallpaper, and photographs that seemed to watch us with hollow eyes. I felt a heaviness settle over me, a weight that grew with each step we took deeper into the house. That it wasn't long before I noticed the first signs of something amiss. A chill swept through the hallway, making the hair on my arms stand on end. My friends laughed it off, their voices echoing, but I could sense an undercurrent of tension. We were intruders in a place that felt reluctant to share its secrets. As we ventured further, the walls seemed to close in, whispering tales of despair that I couldn't quite grasp but could feel creeping into my mind. With every creak of the floorboards, paranoia began to take root. I could hear my heart pounding in my chest, drowning out the laughter of my friends. I caught glimpses of movement out of the corner of my eye, shadows darting just beyond my line of sight. I tried to shake it off, convincing myself it was just my imagination running wild. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. The house had a pulse, a rhythm that throbbed with a dark energy, and we were unwittingly feeding it. As night fell, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. The once familiar house transformed into a maze of terror. The laughter faded, replaced by an oppressive silence that enveloped us. My friends suggested we explore the basement, the most feared part of the house, and I felt a surge of dread. Something deep inside urged me to turn back, but the thrill seeker in me pressed forward, desperate to prove my bravery. The basement door creaked open, revealing a dark abyss that swallowed any light. We descended into the depths, the air growing colder and the silence heavier. As we reached the bottom, I felt an overwhelming sense of foreboding. This was where the family had vanished, where their lives had been snuffed out like a candle. My friends shone flashlights around, illuminating the damp walls and revealing grotesque symbols etched into the stone. My heart raced as I realized we were not alone. Hashtag Capitulo 2. Descended into madness, the symbols on the walls seemed to pulse with a life of their own, each line twisting and writhing as if trying to escape. I could feel the air thickening, pressing in on us like a vice. My friends joked nervously, but their laughter felt hollow, echoing in the vast emptiness of the basement. I wanted to scream, to tell them to leave, but my voice caught in my throat. The house was alive, and it was watching us. As we explored further, I began to see things that didn't make sense. Shadows flickered at the edges of my vision, darting just out of reach whenever I turned to look. A cold breeze swept through the basement, carrying with it faint whispers that seemed to call my name. I could feel the weight of countless eyes upon me, a sensation that made my skin crawl. It was as if the house was feeding off our fear, growing stronger with each passing moment. My friends suggested we split up to cover more ground, and against my better judgment, I agreed. I wandered deeper into the labyrinthine corridors, the darkness swallowing me whole. The further I went, the more I felt my grip on reality slipping. I stumbled upon a room filled with old toys, their faces frozen in expressions of terror. I could almost hear the laughter of children, mingling with their cries for help. Panic surged through me, and I turned to flee, but the door slammed shut behind me. Trapped in the room, I felt a suffocating weight pressing down on my chest. I could hear my friends calling out, their voices distorted and echoing. I banged on the door, desperation clawing at my throat, but the house held me prisoner. It was then that I saw her, a figure in the corner, her face obscured by shadows. I could feel her gaze piercing through me, and I knew, in my gut, that she was not alive. The moment I locked eyes with the apparition, everything shifted. My friends' voices faded, replaced by an oppressive silence that enveloped me. I stumbled backward, my heart racing as I tried to comprehend what I was witnessing. The figure raised a hand, beckoning me closer. I wanted to run, to escape the suffocating dread, but my feet felt rooted to the spot. The house was a prison, and I was its captive. Just as the figure began to step forward, the door burst open, and my friends rushed in, their faces pale with fear. They had found me just in time. We fled the room, racing through the corridors, but the house seemed to shift around us, warping our sense of direction. The walls whispered our names, taunting us, and I could feel the darkness closing in. We were not just trespassers. We were prey, and the house was hungry. Hashtag. As we stumbled into the living room, the atmosphere thickened, wrapping around us like a shroud. I could feel the weight of something ancient and malevolent pressing down, suffocating in its intensity. My friends were frantic, their eyes wide with terror as they searched for an exit, but the house had become a twisting labyrinth, each turn leading us deeper into its grasp. I could almost hear its laughter, a low rumble that echoed through the halls that I in that moment. I felt a strange sensation wash over me, a mix of dread and exhilaration. I knew we had crossed a line, trespassed into a realm where the rules of reality no longer applied. The house was alive, its very essence feeding on our fear. I could see the shadows coalescing, forming shapes that danced just beyond the reach of our flashlights. It was as if the house itself was a sentient being, drawing us in, taunting us with the promise of revelations we were not ready to face. One of my friends, Sarah, suddenly stopped, her eyes widening in horror. She pointed toward the corner of the room, where a dark figure loomed, watching us with an intensity that sent chills down my spine. It was the same figure I had seen before, her expression twisted in a grotesque smile. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me as the reality of our situation sank in. This was no longer a game. We were entwined in a nightmare, and there was no escape. "Let's get out of here," I shouted, panic rising in my chest. But as we turned to flee, the front door slammed shut, sealing our fate. The house shook, and I could hear the walls creaking in protest. The shadows grew bolder, reaching out with tendrils of darkness that brushed against my skin, igniting a primal fear deep within me. I wanted to scream, to fight back, but all I could do was RUN. As we raced through the house, I could feel the air growing thick with despair. Each room we entered felt like a new layer of hell, revealing the horrors that had once transpired. The walls were adorned with photographs of the family that had lived there, smiling faces that seemed to mock our plight. I could feel their eyes boring into my soul, judging me for our trespass. I knew we should have left the past undisturbed, but now it was too late. That I in our frantic escape, I heard Sarah scream, the sound piercing through the suffocating silence. I turned to find her surrounded by shadows, her face twisted in terror. "Help me," she cried, but the darkness enveloped her, dragging her into its depths. I reached out, but it was as if an invisible barrier held me back. It was then that I understood. The house was feeding on our fear, using it to ensnare us one by one. Asters, please take a moment to subscribe to my channel for more chilling stories like this. Your support keeps the nightmares alive, now a chaotic maze of despair. I could hear the whispers growing louder, drowning out my thoughts. Each corner we turned felt like a descent into madness, the walls closing in on us. I knew we were running out of time. The house was determined to claim us, to drag us into its darkness. I could feel it in my bones, a primal instinct screaming that we needed to escape. Finally, we burst through a door and found ourselves in a small, dimly lit room. It was filled with remnants of the past, old toys, dusty books, and a single flickering light bulb swinging overhead. I felt an overwhelming sense of dread wash over me. The air was thick with sorrow, and I could sense the weight of countless memories pressing down on us. This was the heart of the house, The source of its power. As we huddled together, I realized that Sarah was gone. The realization hit me like a physical blow, and I felt the walls closing in. My friends were staring at me, their faces pale and haunted. They too felt the loss, the emptiness where Sarah had once stood. I could see the fear in their eyes, a reflection of my own despair. We had come seeking adventure, but instead, we had unearthed a nightmare that would haunt us forever. Suddenly, the doors slammed shut, trapping us inside. The light flickered, and the whispers crescendoed into a cacophony of voices. I could feel the shadows closing in, wrapping around us like a suffocating blanket. I knew we had to confront whatever lay beyond this room, but fear held me captive. The darkness was alive, pulsating with a hunger that threatened to consume us all. In that moment, something shifted within me. I understood that we could not run from our fate. We had to face it. I turned to my friends, determination rising within me. "We have to fight back," I said, my voice trembling but resolute. As we joined hands, I felt a surge of energy, a flicker of hope against the encroaching darkness. Together, we could challenge the house's power, confront the horrors we had awakened. But as we stood united, the shadows roared in defiance. The walls shook, and I could feel the house retaliating against our defiance. We were trapped in a cycle of despair, and I could sense the weight of our choices bearing down on us. The darkness was relentless, and I knew that even if we escaped, the scars of this night would linger. We were forever changed, marked by the horrors we had witnessed. Hashtag days turned into weeks, and the memories of that night haunted my every waking moment. I would wake in a cold sweat, the whispers echoing in my mind, reminding me of the darkness that lurked just beyond the veil of reality. My friends and I tried to piece our lives back together, but the weight of our shared trauma was a burden we could not shake. Sarah's absence was a constant reminder of our folly. Our reckless pursuit of adventure had cost us dearly, that I found myself returning to that house in my dreams, the shadows beckoning me, whispering secrets I could never understand. I knew I could never truly escape, that the darkness would always be a part of me. Each creak of the floorboards, each flicker of light sent me spiraling back into that abyss. The house had become a part of my identity, a twisted reflection of the choices I had made that as I sat in silence, I couldn't help but wonder about the nature of fear and despair. What truly lies beyond the threshold of reality? Are we ever truly free from the horrors we encounter? I found myself questioning my own sanity, unsure of what was real and what was a mere figment of my imagination. The lines had blurred, leaving me in a perpetual state of unease. To anyone watching this, I urge you to heed this warning. Some doors are better left unopened. The past holds secrets that can consume you whole if you dare to disturb them. I share this story not just as a cautionary tale, but as a reminder of the darkness that dwells within us all. The echoes of that night will forever resonate in my mind, a haunting reminder of the price we pay for our curiosity. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the unknown. I encourage you to share your own fears and experiences with the darkness. What lies beyond the veil of reality? Let's explore these chilling questions together, for the nightmare never truly ends. It was supposed to be just another Saturday night, the kind filled with laughter and youthful exuberance. My friends and I had gathered at Jenna's apartment in Los Angeles, the city lights twinkling outside like 1,000 watchful eyes. Amidst the chatter and snacks, someone suggested we try the Ouija board. The idea sent a thrill through the group. We had all heard the stories of those who had dabbled with the supernatural, and curiosity got the better of us. As we set up the board on the coffee table, my heart raced with a mix of excitement and trepidation. The board was old, with worn edges and a faded planchette that seemed to beckon us closer. We formed a circle, our fingers lightly resting on the planchette, the atmosphere thick with anticipation. Jenna lit a few candles, their flickering flames casting eerie shadows that danced along the walls. I could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on us, a palpable tension that made the air crackle that we began by asking simple questions, testing the waters. "Is anyone here?" Jenna asked, her voice barely above a whisper. At first, nothing happened. We exchanged uneasy glances, laughter awkwardly bubbling up as we tried to shake off the tension. But then, the planchette began to move, gliding across the board as if guided by an unseen hand. I felt a chill race down my spine, a warning that I couldn't quite place. This was more than just a game. It was a connection to something beyond our understanding. With each question we posed, the atmosphere shifted. The responses grew more unsettling, the planchette spelling out words that sent shivers through my body. DNGR, it spelled one time, each letter feeling like a death knell. We laughed nervously, dismissing the warning as a prank or coincidence. But deep down, I sensed the truth lurking in the shadows. The room felt colder, the laughter fading as the weight of the unknown pressed down on us. As the night wore on, we delved deeper into the questions, our curiosity overshadowing our instincts. The board revealed names and dates, fragments of stories from those who had once existed. But with each revelation, I felt a growing unease. The candles flickered violently, casting ominous shadows that seemed to stretch toward us like grasping fingers. I could feel a presence in the room, something watching us, and I wanted to flee, but my friends were too enthralled. Finally, we asked, "What do you want?" The planchette moved slowly, spelling out a single word, FRE. My heart raced, and I felt a wave of dread wash over me. Suddenly, the lights flickered, plunging us into darkness for a heartbeat. When they returned, I could see the fear etched on my friends' faces. We had crossed a line, and I could sense the energy in the room shifting, becoming something sinister. Hashtag, we decided to take a break, laughter mingling with nervousness as we tried to shrug off the unease. But the atmosphere had changed. It felt charged, electric with something we couldn't comprehend. I excused myself to the bathroom, the hallway feeling longer than usual, shadows clinging to the corners like secrets. As I splashed water on my face, I caught a glimpse of something in the mirror, a fleeting shadow behind me. I whipped around, heart racing, but found only emptiness. Returning to the living room, I was met with an eerie silence. The candles had burned low, casting long, flickering shadows that danced unsettlingly. My friends were huddled together, their faces pale and drawn. They had asked more questions while I was gone, and the responses had taken a dark turn. DONTLEVE, the board had spelled, and I felt a chill grip my heart. We were being warned, yet the thrill of the unknown kept us captive against my better judgment. I sat back down, our fingers finding the planchette once more. The air felt thick, oppressive, and I sensed the walls closing in around us. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice trembling. The planchette moved slowly, the letters spelling out NOTALONE. A cold wave washed over me, and I felt the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. A sense of dread wrapped around me, and I glanced at my friends, their eyes wide with fear. Suddenly, one of my friends, Mark, let out a strangled cry. He was staring at the board, his face twisted in horror. It's not spelling anything anymore," he stammered. Instead, the planchette was spinning wildly, as if possessed by an unseen force. The candles flickered violently, and the room plunged into darkness again, this time for longer. When the lights finally returned, the atmosphere had shifted entirely. It felt like we were no longer in control, that I end the chaos. Jenna shouted, "We need to stop." But it was too late. The board had become a conduit, channeling something dark and powerful. The planchette shot across the board, spelling out TK. Panic surged through me. I could feel a presence looming, heavy and malevolent. The shadows in the room felt alive, stretching toward us, hungry for our fear. I wanted to scream, to run, but my body felt paralyzed, gripped by an unseen force that we scrambled to put the board away. But it felt like an impossible task. The oppressive energy in the room intensified, pressing down on us, suffocating in its weight. I could hear whispers rising from the darkness, the voices swirling around us, taunting and mocking. They spoke in a language I couldn't understand, a cacophony of dread that filled my mind with terror. I felt like I was losing my grip on reality, slipping into a nightmare that I couldn't escape. In a moment of desperation, I shouted, "We're done. We're closing this." But as I reached for the board, the lights flickered again, and the room seemed to shift. I could see the outlines of figures in the shadows, their faces obscured, but their intentions clear. They were angry, restless spirits seeking release, and we had unwittingly become their focus. The energy surged, and I realized we were trapped in a web of our own making. #, the room felt like a pressure cooker, each second dragging out into an eternity. I could feel the presence pressing against us, suffocating in its intensity. We were no longer just friends. We were prey, hunted by an unseen force that thrived on our fear. As the shadows danced around us, I caught glimpses of faces twisted in agony, their mouths moving in silent screams. The air crackled with electricity, and I could taste the acrid tang of fear on my tongue. "Get out!" Mark yelled, his voice breaking the spell that held us captive. We stumbled to our feet, adrenaline surging as we rushed for the door. But it wouldn't budge. The shadows seemed to twist and coil around it, holding us in place, mocking our desperation. I felt a cold sweat break out across my skin, the reality of our situation crashing down on me. We had invited this darkness in, and now there was no escape. As we struggled against the door, the whispers grew louder, drowning out our panicked breaths. I could feel the coldness seeping into my bones, a deep chill that threatened to freeze me from the inside out. I turned to my friends, their faces pale with terror, and I saw the realization dawning in their eyes. We were not just facing a game gone wrong. We had opened a door to something ancient and malevolent, something that craved our fear and despair. Then, without warning, the door swung open, and we tumbled out into the hallway, gasping for breath. But the darkness followed us, a shadow that clung to our heels, relentless in its pursuit. We raced down the stairs, the laughter and music from the party below now distant echoes. The air felt thick with malevolence, and I could feel the shadows creeping closer, whispering promises of despair in my ears. We burst into the main party area, but the atmosphere had shifted. The music had stopped, and everyone turned to stare at us, confusion etched on their faces. I could see the fear in my friends' eyes, reflecting my own terror. We had emerged from a nightmare, but the nightmare was far from over. The darkness had seeped into the very fabric of our reality, and we were marked by our curiosity. As we tried to explain, the room began to shift again, the laughter now distorted and mocking. I could hear the whispers of the spirits swirling around us, seeping into our minds. "You shouldn't have played," they taunted. "Now you'll never be free." I felt the walls closing in, the pressure of our decision weighing heavily on my conscience. We had awakened something that would never rest, a darkness that would haunt us for eternity. Asterisk, please take a moment to subscribe to my channel for more chilling stories like this. Your support keeps the nightmares alive. Asterisk hashtag the days turned into weeks, yet the shadow of that night loomed over us like a dark cloud. Each of us tried to resume our lives, but the memory of the Ouija board haunted our every waking moment. I would wake in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat, the whispers echoing in my mind. It felt as if the spirits we had summoned were still lurking, waiting for the right moment to reclaim us. Jenna refused to speak of that night, her laughter fading into nervous silence whenever the topic arose. Mark became withdrawn, his eyes haunted by the fear of what we had unleashed. I found myself constantly looking over my shoulder, convinced that the shadows were watching, waiting for me to slip. Our friendship, once vibrant and full of life, was now strained and fractured, each of us carrying the weight of our shared trauma. One evening, I decided to confront my fears. I returned to Jenna's apartment, the familiar streets of Los Angeles feeling foreign and eerie. As I stepped inside, the air felt thick with memories, the echoes of that night flooding back. I found the Ouija board tucked away in a corner, dust-covered and silent. I felt drawn to it, an inexplicable urge to understand what had happened. But as I reached out, a wave of terror crashed over me that I hesitated, knowing that this could lead to a deeper descent into madness. But curiosity won over caution, and I set the board up once more. The candles flickered to life, illuminating the darkness. I took a deep breath and placed my fingers on the planchette. "Is anyone there?" I whispered, my voice trembling. The planchette began to move, and I felt the familiar chill wrap around me that IT spelled out YUWLNEVRLEAVE. Panic surged through me, and I felt the shadows creeping closer, whispering secrets I wasn't ready to hear. I realized then that I was not just seeking answers. I was inviting the darkness back into my life. I slammed the board shut, my heart racing, and I knew then that I had to let go of the past. But it was too late. The shadows had taken root, intertwining with my very being. I could feel their presence in my dreams, their whispers haunting my every thought. I tried to move on, but the scars of that night ran deep, a reminder of our folly. Each creak of the floorboards, each flicker of the lights sent me spiraling back into that abyss. Questioning my own sanity, yes, I sat in silence. I couldn't help but wonder about the nature of fear and the unknown. What had we truly unleashed that night? Were we forever bound to the darkness we had invited in? I knew we had opened a door that could never be closed, and the weight of that knowledge pressed heavily on my soul. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the unknown. I encourage you to share your own fears and experiences with the darkness. What lies beyond the veil of reality? Let's explore these chilling questions together, for the nightmare never truly ends.